Hey, my name is Gadd, and in this video I'm going to talk to you about some books I read in March. This is my March wrap-up part 2. There should be a part 3 as well. I'm sorry about this weird angle, but well, by the time you see this it'll be hopefully a bit better, but I had a slight accident, and so, well, I am not sure if this camera is even level, but my movement is a bit restricted due to my foot, which is down here. So yeah, I hope you don't mind that for this once. Yeah, but I would like to talk about some books, and I feel like we're really not level, but maybe that's me. I am sorry if we're not level. As usual, I will leave timestamps in the description down below if you just want to hear about a specific book. I have 8 books to talk about today. One of them is a short story and the other ones are, well, you know what, we'll just get into it and you'll see. I didn't read much in the second week of March. So my March wrap-up part 1 was actually books that I read in the first week of March. I didn't finish much in the second week of March. No, but I finished more in the third week of March. Anyway, we'll just get into it in the order that I finished them. So the first book that I finished, after the previous video anyway, is the Oppas by van Vuuren. This is a Dutch thriller, and in between some of these more like non-fiction-y reads that I've been reading, I just suddenly wanted something, I don't know, lighter and also in Dutch, just an easier read. And was it last year that I read my first book by this author, which was called Eindfeest, and I think it was in like the last quarter of last year, but I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, not that long ago I feel that I read that book and I liked it. I didn't love it, but it was a nice, enjoyable read. And so I picked up another one that was on my shelf. This one is called the Oppas, and in English that means the babysitter. Here's the back, although it's in Dutch. So this book is, there's a nowadays timeline, but there's also things that go back to something that happened, was it 13 years ago? Yeah, 13 years ago. So 13 years ago, Kim was a teenager and she was the regular babysitter of Max and Suze, 2 kids who lived in her street. Max was 7, Suze was 5. Kim is not really a great babysitter. One day Suze disappears, 5-year-old girl, and when her body is found, so warning for death of a child in here, the police arrest Kim, even though she says she didn't do it. And then we go 13 years later, when we follow, among other characters, Kim, as she just been released from prison. We also follow Max, who is Suze's brother, and we follow a couple other characters as well. And this is a Dutch thriller. It's, well, I say thriller, but a lot of parts of it feel more contemporary fiction than thriller, but you know, it was enjoyable to me. In this book as well, we go backwards and forwards in time a bit, which, for example, here, this is one of the first few chapters. It says, I don't know if you can see that, but it says the 10th of October. So we go back and forth a bit, which in the beginning it took me a bit of, because we go backwards and forwards a bit. It took me a little bit of time to get used to that and realizing when we are in the time sort of thing. But after a bit that became easy to understand. And I read most of this book in one day, and this was just an enjoyable read to me. Yeah, I feel the Dutch, more literary thrillers, more contemporary fiction thrillers that I like to read, they're not quite like most of the thrillers that I see being published by like famous American authors. Now I like those as well, but I don't really read those much nowadays. But I read a lot of those when I was younger. Yeah, so I read a lot of at least the thrillers that my library had when I was a teenager, which were translated from English into Dutch, but a lot of them were American. I have a few of them now as well. Anyway, I just wanted to point that out in case, you know, I know most of you can't read Dutch, and I don't think this author's works have been translated, but then again, I don't know because I haven't looked into it, but that's what I think, so we'll try to sit a little bit in the middle. But yeah, I just wanted to say that because I have a different feel to them, just so nobody ends up disappointed that this is not like, let's say, a Romanczuk thriller or a John Grisham thriller or David Baldacci, or, well, just trying to think of some names that I read when I was a teenager, sort of thing. I guess maybe you call this more like a domestic thriller or a psychological thriller. I'm not sure. I know there's also some subgenres between thrillers, but I need to learn more about what they are and stuff. But anyway, this was an enjoyable read, and we'll just move on. I'm sorry, by the way, that it is so bright there. Yeah, I don't know how to fix that on the camera, so hopefully my next video after this will be in a nicer, well, in an easier setting rather than me sitting with my leg up and stuff. But I'm sure by the time you see this, which will probably be, I think, in April, by the time you see this will be a lot better. Oh, so the next book that I finished is Steelheart by Brandon Sanderson. This is book 1 in the Reckoners series. I felt in the mood to read a Brandon Sanderson book after, you know, his Kickstarter and stuff. I say that as if you know, but that's not actually logical. So, in the beginning of March, Brandon Sanderson made a video and started a Kickstarter saying that he wrote several different novels, like in secret from his publisher. And anyway, I've backed the Kickstarter for the ebooks. Yeah, anyway, that's not really, I guess, relevant to this video, but if you haven't heard about that somehow, then, you know, you can let me know or Google it or something. But it has been quite in quite a few booktubers have talked about it and stuff. So anyway, at least the booktubers who read like science fiction, fantasy and stuff. Anyway, moving on. So this is book 1 in the Reckoner series. This is a trilogy at the moment. The author does plan to write more in this world. And this is here because I also read the short story that comes between the first and the second book, which is called Mitosis, which I read on my Kindle, but it's over there somewhere, and I am slightly not quite as mobile as usually, so hence the note to not forget. I read Steelheart pretty quickly, did I? Well, I found it a pretty quick read. This is young adult, and I'm trying to think of whether it's fantasy or science fiction, or a bit of both. But anyway, because he wrote both. Anyway, here's a synopsis on the back. And yeah, I love this. But now, of course, you want to know what it's about. So, in this world, there is what they call the epics. Well, actually, this is on the back. 10 years ago, calamity came. It was a burst in the sky that gave ordinary men and women extraordinary powers. The old public started calling them epics. So the people who have those powers are called epics. But these epics are not friendly. So they got a lot of powers, and power corrupts. And common people without powers, they can't fight these epics. They're scared. The Reckoners fight these epics though. So our main character is David. He would like to join the Reckoners. He wants to kill Steelheart, who is the big epic in the town that he lives in, the city. And he wants to kill this epic because this epic killed his father. Was it 8 years ago? Oh, it doesn't say on the back, but that's what I think. Oh, 10 years ago, sorry. That's my bad. So 10 years ago, when David was 8, there's my confusion, Steelheart kills David's father, that's the scene we open with in the prologue. And so David's been studying and planning and wants to join this Reckoners and take down this epic who killed his father. This book had a lot of action. It was fast paced, to me anyway. I wanted to keep on reading. I enjoyed also the banter between David and the other characters, or between the other characters. I like the characters. I really liked this book. Yeah, it was very enjoyable. And Mitosis, which is the short story, was also enjoyable to me. Not as enjoyable as like this whole book that I gave 5 stars, but I did enjoy the short story as well. And I say short story, the rest of it is I think an excerpt of the next book, which is Firefight. And then the third book is called Calamity, but that's over there. I didn't bring it here. I started reading this, but then put it down because my brain wants to read lots of different books at once, and mood reader, and anyway, doesn't matter. I do want to read the second and third book because I want to know how it continues and stuff. And I still have some questions that haven't been answered because this is book 1. And yeah, the next book is called The Fastned Story, Deel 1 en 2 by Bart Lubbers. This is a Dutch book. I know it has an English title with the and story written in English, but this book is in Dutch. I don't know actually if it's available in English. It might be. I'm not sure. This is a book about the company Fastned. They are a Dutch company. I don't know if you've heard of them. Also, not being from the Netherlands, if you're not from the Netherlands, I especially don't know if you've heard of them. I borrowed this book from my father, who my dad, in his work, well, he was gifted this book, I think. He gets gifted quite a few books through, well, work or as a thank you. Anyway, his work has somewhat slightly to do with this. Not quite, but that's a bit of explaining it. Anyway, it doesn't matter exactly. I saw this book at my parents' house, and my dad said I could borrow it. So I did. Now, I didn't know lots about the company Fastned. I knew a bit about what they did, but not more than that. So let me tell you, in case you don't know, I didn't know much. So Fastned, is there a good picture? Maybe here, has developed charging stations all around the Netherlands, along the motorways, for charging electric vehicles, like cars. And at least near the end of this book, they were also going to be in other countries close to the Netherlands. And this book, non-fiction, is about how that company got to be and how, yeah, their story, at least the beginning of it. So it says here part 1 and 2. But there, it says at the end also to be continued, so I presume there will be, or maybe already is a part 3, I'm not sure. So the book has in fact split up into part 1, part 2, with dates and then what's happening, how the company got to be. And so Bart Lubbers is one of the 2 founders of the company, and he wrote the book. There are also, I don't know if you can see that in here, but 2 places in the book where there's pictures. I don't want to show you the pictures in case that is, well, in case I'm not allowed to do that or something, but I found this a nice read. I didn't know lots about the company before I started reading, but like I said, here is an example, and so the book talks about how that's designed and how they had to work with certain rules and regulations, which I didn't know much about, how all that worked. And obviously in the Netherlands, in other countries it's different. So later in the book, they expand to, they talk about which countries they want to expand to. So you follow them also in the process of to Germany, for example. But yeah, I thought it was a nice read. I haven't yet talked to my dad about it. Right now, I haven't been able to do that yet. But I don't know if he's read it or what he thinks about them in general, but I would like to know, because he knows a bit about these kind of things. So anyway, this was an interesting read for me. The next book I read is also Dutch, and I think it's also a book that my dad was gifted. It's called Bla Bla 600 totaal zinloze feiten om mee te scoren als je zelf geen tekst hebt. This has been translated from English, American English, and the original title is Bla Bla 600 incredibly useless facts, which was published in 2006, the original English. And well, the authors aren't on the outside of this book, but in here it says that the original authors are Fredrik, Colting and Carl-Johan Gadd. This is just a book filled with facts. Just kind of like random facts. I picked this up at my parents' house because I didn't bring a book with me when I went there, and I had to wait before I could before my dad drove me back because I don't drive, and I couldn't cycle because my tire was flat. I drove through something, I must have, and the tire was completely flat, the back tire, so I couldn't use my bicycle. Anyway, long story, doesn't really matter. It's just I picked this book up randomly because I had to wait a little bit and I was done browsing my phone and stuff, so I just picked this book up at random, and yeah, and then I took it home with me and read the rest of it in short bits as I had a few minutes spare here and there and stuff like that. And I could definitely tell that this book was translated from American English because some of the facts are related to American movies or American movie stars, for example. One was particularly, one fact talked about the clothing size of a specific something, but they didn't translate the clothing size measurements properly to Dutch. So what it says in here makes no sense in Dutch sizes. So that's a bit of an error. It was an interesting book to read. I do feel, yeah, I think I'm gonna look up to see what I wrote down. I found a couple of things that I thought were inaccurate or dated. Now this book was originally published in 2006, so you know there is that, and then so other than that one about the sizes, which makes completely no sense now in Dutch. Yeah, there were a couple others that were either dated or just have proven since then to be inaccurate or something like that. But some of the other facts I thought were very interesting. Some things I already knew, some things I didn't. I read a few of them also to my partner, my boyfriend, as I was reading it. Because there are, for example, a few facts in here about certain James Bond movies, and my partner likes those, so I told him a few of those, for example. So yeah, this is not a book I would really go out and buy, personally. But, you know, and I can't imagine my dad buying this. So I think it's another one of those things he was somehow given. I don't think he's read it. So yeah, there looks to be, at least in American, more in this kind of facts series. I don't know if those are also in, yeah, it looks like there's a couple in Dutch as well, that have more specific themes, but yeah, I'm sorry, I seem to be taking ages today. Hopefully we can fix a bit of that and everything. So yeah, this was just, well, entertaining enough while I had it, but it's not something that I would fresh out and buy. After that, the book I finished after that, and I'm still reading some non-fiction books at the moment that I haven't finished yet, but anyway, the next book I fancied picking up something fiction-y, so I picked up Internet Famous by Danika Stone. I can't remember now exactly. I think it was a booktuber that talked about a different book than this, but also a book where social media played a role on the internet, and that made me think of, oh, have I got books that I already own with a similar theme? And that made me pick up this. I bought this a few years ago. Actually, I bought this after I loved Queens of Geek by Jen Wild, which was a book that really spoke to me. It's one of my favorite books of all time. And that was published by Swoon Reads, and so after loving that book, I went on the internet and looked at this publisher. This was another book that they had published. I bought it, but it's about it's about a different subject. It's a different author, so yeah, it's not related to that. So Internet Famous is about Maddie, who has a famous blog, what they call it, pop culture rewatch site, has a massive following. She's a teenager in high school, but she follows online classes from home. And well, here is a synopsis on the back. There's also a romance involved, and there's also a troll involved. And so the book touches on some of these subjects to do with social media and trolls. So some of this book is like Instagram messages. I don't know for sure if it's Instagram, but like a messaging service with also emojis and stuff. Some of it is written as like blog posts, but there's also some just written in third person past tense. That's most of it. And actually in the beginning there is like a little dictionary of what certain abbreviations mean, and I knew some of them. So yeah, so this book has to do with fandom and also being famous on the internet. I haven't heard that many people talk about it. It was published a few years ago, so it was published in 2017. I wasn't making booktube videos yet in 2017, so yeah. Anyway, I did watch booktube, but before I had my own channel, I kind of watched more on and off, and I didn't know any of the friends yet that I have now, so I mostly just watched bigger channels that I had found. Anyway, this was a nice read for me. It wasn't amazing, but it was nice. I like the font, which is a bit unusual. So our main character is Maddie. She has a sister called Sarah, and I actually looked up some reviews on Goodreads, but not many people seem to like really talk about Sarah, because to me it seemed that Sarah is autistic, but when I looked at like the top reviews on Goodreads, it wasn't. People have mentioned Sarah and how she has some problems and stuff, but nobody seemed to use the word autistic or neurodivergent, or so I don't know, but that's how I read it, which was unexpected because I didn't know before reading the back that was going to be in there. I didn't like Maddie's mother. So Maddie and Sarah they have two parents, mother and a father, but the mother is away a lot, and I can't remember now whereabouts this. I can't remember how. Yeah, it's not that far into the book, so it's pretty not spoiler. That Maddie's mother has to go away again, and this is hard on Sarah, who really needs a routine to stick to that helps her. And I just thought the mother character was, yeah, I didn't like her. The parents seemed to kind of leave it a lot up to Maddie to take care of Sarah and help her and be there for her. And I like the father a bit more than the mother, but the mother character was just not, she was just not being a good mother. She didn't seem to understand Sarah's struggles, which as an autistic person myself, I can. In the beginning of the book, so I hope this is not a spoiler, because it happens relatively soon, but if you don't want to hear it, then feel free to stop here, skip a bit. The mother decides that she's going somewhere else for a bit, to another country. So the book takes place in, I think, the United States, but then the mother is going to, was it Oxford? Well, the mother is going to another country for a while, and the parents, when Maddie finds out, she's mad because the parents promised Sarah that this wouldn't happen again. So it's happened before. But also they wait with telling Sarah until like a really late moment. And if you know anything about, well, most autistic people, dealing with a change is hard, but we need that time to adjust. It takes a lot more time for us to adjust to a change. So if you had just told her earlier, then she would have had more time to get used to it and say goodbye to you and stuff. Whereas telling her at the last moment and then disappearing yourself, going to another country and leaving Maddie to deal with the fallout, that's not good parenting. I'm sorry, it's not. But I like this book. There was a romance in it as well, like I said. I'm sorry, I'm struggling. I went on a bit of a rant there about the mother. I didn't like her. I think we established that. But yeah, I did like Maddie and the other characters, Maddie's online friends, and I liked Sarah. I think we're just going to move on. I'm tired. I enjoyed the book. I didn't love it, but I liked it. I read it pretty quickly as well. I actually read most of it in one day. And this edition that I have has some extras at the back. I don't know if that is the case for like all editions or something, or if this is the only edition, I don't know. So there's like some extras in the back. So Maddie rewatches certain like films and things and then comments on them. So just as a warning that the bit in the back talks about the movie The Force Awakens. Now I have seen that movie, so well, I don't know how much sense it will make if you haven't seen it, but just so you know that there's spoilers for that in the end bit. Earlier on, they talk about certain media as well, and there's also memes in it and stuff. I'm trying to remember if it like spoiled or not. It also mentioned some movies and things that I didn't know anything about, so anyway, we're gonna leave it at that and just move on. Then, this was only yesterday that I finished the Wheel of Time campaign, and I have been reading this since, okay, it looks like I started about mid-December. I've talked about this book before in fact several videos mentioning that I was still reading it. This is an A to Z companion. Just to show you quickly, we start off with the A, and then so we go through each letter. So here's N, for example, and I'm only showing it quickly because so this goes through all the people, places, names of buildings, names of items and objects in the world, names of like rivers and terms and concepts, and just to do with the Wheel of Time series. Oh, I didn't say the authors. So the Wheel of Time series is written by Robert Jordan. He unfortunately passed away before the last books could be completed. Brendan Sanderson finished it off. This Wheel of Time companion is based on a lot of his notes, so it has his name on it, obviously Robert Jordan. It's also by Harriet McDougal, who is his wife, and then we have Alan Romanczuk and Maria Simmons, who were his editors. So this book, obviously, or maybe it's not, it contains spoilers for the whole series. The Wheel of Time series is 14 books plus a prequel. I loved it. This book contains spoilers for the whole series, so tread with care if you haven't finished the series yet. I don't know if you're meant to like use this as you're rereading the series but you can't remember something, you want to look it up, because I read this from front to back over the course of, well, since half December, so like 3 months. I don't know that that's the way you're meant to read it, but either way, I started reading this because I've had this book for a couple of years, but because of the TV show that was being broadcast in, I think, November and December, the first season, and it got me in the mood to pick something up from this series again. I have reread the first 2 books and the prequel. I started to reread the book 3 a few years ago, but then put it down again, and well, this was actually a good choice for me because it made me relive many good memories of the series, and certain characters and locations and things, and also some characters I've forgotten about because this series has a lot of characters. It's adult fantasy, and so many like minor or side characters I didn't remember. It's been years since I read most of the series, so, and yeah, I can now say that I have finished this book, so I guess that's a lot of pages to add to March. When I actually started reading this in December, I read it over the course of 3 months. It also has some illustrations in it of some maps and some of the important characters as they pop up in the chapters, and yeah, I would recommend this if you are a Wheel of Time fan, you love the series, and it sounds interesting. Obviously, I'm very biased. The series is not for everyone, I will say that. It contains some very detailed descriptions of certain things, and I don't mean gore, but I mean like certain people's clothing and stuff. If that's not your thing, fair enough. For me, I have to be in the right mood for it, because sometimes I don't want lots of description and stuff. The world is very detailed. I love the magic system. Yeah, anyway, I'm very biased. I really like a lot of the characters. But yeah, I haven't reread the whole series. So for me, there's also like a nostalgic element, because I started reading this, I can't even remember when, years ago. So yeah. Reading tastes also changed over the years. I don't know that I would get on with it as much nowadays. I don't know. I will try to reread book 3 again at some point. I think I'm about like, I don't know, 120-ish pages or something in That was a few years ago, and then I put it down because I wasn't in the mood anymore. Yeah, anyway. But it is one of my favorite fantasy series. So, yeah. The last book that we get to now for this video that I've finished is called Fat and Queer, and this is a collection of essays and poetry and such by people who are fat and queer, and also some of them are people of color. This is edited by Bruce Owens Grimm and Miguel and Morales and Tiff Joshua T.G. Ferentini. Yeah, so it says here, an anthology of queer and trans bodies and lives. Yeah, it has a lot of pieces in it, shall I call it that. I like this. I'm fat and queer myself. I'm not a person of color, and while I am queer, people can't like see that. So while it's something that I identify with, it's not something that I discuss much with my people that I see in real life, like my family. So yeah, which I have attempted, but anyway, I'm also fat. That's also something that is difficult to talk about with some people in my family, but anyway. I really like this book. I also liked that there were quite a few authors of color in here, which, you know, so the book is basically about the intersectionality of being fat and being queer, and how that feels for certain people. Some stuff as well about the introduction, how this book came to be and everything. And yeah, I really like this. I liked some pieces more than others, but I thought most were really good and really interesting. Yeah, if there's one thing, I guess, if I have to give a criticism, is that it felt to me more America focused. And I don't know if that's accurate, because some of these authors are also from like immigrants, or like lived in one country, they moved to the United States, that all that kind of, yeah. But it just, I guess that's maybe also the market they have in mind, I don't know. There was one piece that talked about a lot of, I don't want to say slang, but like American brands and things that I had no idea what some of it was. But the book acted, or at least that piece acted, as if I was supposed to know. So there is that. This is by Jessica Kingsley Publishers, who I think are American. Yeah, it taught me some things I didn't know yet. I thought this was, yeah, I liked it. There were just a couple of pieces that spoke less to me, that I liked less, or that I didn't quite understand maybe, or whatever, but yeah. Well, poo, the camera just stopped recording because I ran over the file size. Again, that's now twice in one recording session. Though I don't feel that great, so possibly I need more time to get my thoughts out, which means it runs long. So editing me is going to have fun with that. Not. But I'm kind of confined to here for a little while, so yeah, editing is going to have to, but so yeah, yeah, I like this a lot. Yeah, like I said, some bits, some pieces I like more than others, but yeah, overall, yeah, I liked it. So this is all of the books, although Mitosis is not really represented other than by the one note. And yeah, so while I didn't do much reading in terms of finishing books, at least in the second week, I read a lot in the first week of March, so I guess also I wanted to rest a bit. And also, like I read, I'm still in well, I guess in the beginning of several more non-fiction books. So anyway, so I took a little bit of a break and read a bit less for like in the second week, and then I read a bit more in the third week. Thank you very much for watching this video. I hope to film part 3 in a nicer place than this. Well, not saying this isn't nice. I think it's nice. It's just for the video, but with that, which looks to me on the viewfinder very bright and white. Yeah, very bright. So not the best place to record a video. And also I feel like this part, like normally I like to make sure that like the video like ends just above my head, if that makes sense, like the screen. but since I am limited now in my movement, this was how I had to do it. So I feel like a lot of this space here is kind of wasted. And I'm a bit further away, so you can't see as much of the book covers and such, which is something I personally like to see in videos. So yeah, thank you for staying with me. Let's hope this heals up soon, although probably by the time you see this, it will have. Yeah, thank you very much for watching this video. And yeah, I'm still reading like several different, mostly non-fiction books at once, and I don't know when I'm gonna go back to reading one book at a time or how it's gonna go. I feel like so far this year my reading has been feeling a bit different than the past few years. While I have enjoyed my reading, I've sometimes also found it hard to concentrate on reading, or been feeling like I would rather not read but do something else, if that makes sense. I wouldn't call it a slump exactly, but, and I mean, you definitely can't really tell with, well, I don't know how many books I've read now in March, but yeah, I don't know. It usually works better for me to just read one book at once, but yeah, I don't know, my brain just seems to want to do this, and yeah, I don't know. I've been having problems with concentration recently. Yeah, I have ADD, for those who don't know, so problems with concentration is definitely not unusual for me. Thank you very much for watching this video. Feel free to leave a comment if you like. I do like reading nice comments, or tell me about if you've been reading something, or I don't know. Wow, I'm really a bit out of it. This accent also came as unexpected, but then you don't really expect to. Yeah, anyway, I'm quite tired. Sensory of, yeah, and I'm trying my best to look at the camera, but my view, I feel, keeps going over there, because that's what I also do in like a real life conversation. Yeah. Anyway, thank you very much for watching this video, and I hope to see you in my next one. Bye!